Steve here. It's the show where I answer your questions, and this week my first question comes from Bruce Bardup, who says, "Thanks for the very considerate and indeed well-considered response to my small problem from the 1950s movie Dam Busters. From now on, I promise to be big about it. Big. British industrial strength guts. I just wish I could think of good, popular, anti-Trump, anti-fascist propaganda. We have one nomination, Star Wars, two if we include Dam Busters. Do any of the other popular entertainments measure up as responsible, critically aware propaganda for love? Star Trek? DC Comics universe? Wrestling? Taking the piss out of religion? Sports? Sex? I think a few of the items on that list qualify. And my hope is that in the next few years, we will have plenty of anti-fascist and specifically anti-Trump popular narratives to choose from. Something tells me that being an already unpopular president who lost the popular vote election by quite a bit, and then going on to go out of your way to piss off and alienate the media and the entertainment industry is not going to serve Trump well. So hopefully in a few years we'll be up to our eyeballs in anti-Trump propaganda for love, as you call it. As for the stuff on your list there, Bruce, I think a lot of Star Trek qualifies. There's not a lot of specific anti-fascism in the original Star Trek, but there's a lot of sort of just general anti-authoritarianism, you know. So I think Star Trek is definitely a good one to look to. There's a great episode of The Next Generation called The Drumhead that is all about the folly of unfounded suspicions and sort of investigating every innuendo and every rumor as though it is a credible charge. I think that's something that will serve us well to remember in the coming years. There's a lot of Star Trek, I think, that could be very useful and very, very inspiring for sort of an anti-fascist, anti-Trump frame of mind. DC Comics universe, I don't know, maybe people in the comments can help me out. What are some good anti-fascist DC Comics stories? The one that comes to mind as a possibility is The Dark Knight Returns, but that's problematic because even though the government that Batman is opposing in that story is very much an authoritarian government, Batman himself has some fascist tendencies in that story as well. So it's not quite as cut and dry as you might want for that sort of thing. And wrestling's not a good place to look to for social commentary of any kind. It often attempts social commentary, but it's never really very good at it. Taking the piss out of religion, that would be nice. You know, religion can be a form of fascism and authoritarianism, and it would be nice to see that resisted in a way that was productive and could also be translated to the much broader sort of political viewpoint. And sports, Colin Kaepernick, you know, sports in general, no, but specific figures in sports who could use their profile, who could use their celebrity to stand up for what's right. I think that could happen. Colin Kaepernick's a good example of that. Sex, could sex be an anti-Trump form of art? I guess if you do it right. Specific hieroglyphics. Hey Steve, I've just turned 20 on New Year's Day and I feel like I'm still a 15-year-old kid at heart. Any advice for a young woman who will have to face the crippling reality of adulthood? I would say hang on to the optimism and the curiosity and the openness and the willingness of your 15-year-old self. And I'm making some assumptions about your 15-year-old self there. If your 15-year-old self is not in any measure like that, then just ignore that. But there are certain things about being a teenager, at least in my experience and in the experience of a lot of people that I grew up with and a lot of people that I know today, that I think we would be good to hold on to. There are some aspects of adolescence that it's good that we discard, you know, like petulance, like self-centeredness. But there are other aspects of adolescence that I think are good, that we should hold on to, that we should make parts of our personalities going forward, like curiosity, like passion, like growing, like the capacity to become indignant about broader injustices, the capacity to see things in life that are not fair and to get angry about it and to say somebody should do something about that, and then try to do something about it yourself or help some people to do something about it. Those are aspects of your 15-year-old self, of our sort of shared 15-year-old selves that I think we would all be very, very good to hold on to. As for what do you do to face adulthood, I don't really have a lot of advice. I don't really have a lot of wisdom in this area, even though I have so far survived my own adulthood. But the only thing I can tell you, and one of the few things that I can say that I do know from my own experience, and hopefully this applies to your experience as well, is that you have to find something that you love. You have to find something that gives your life meaning, something that you feel like you're good at, and something that you can see yourself getting better at and working at and improving at and honing. Whether it's a craft or a hobby, whether it's making art, writing, painting, making films, making podcasts, making music, social activism, political activism, social work, helping people, being a counselor, being a mentor, teaching. Even if it's not something that you could do for a profession, even if you find yourself in the position that a lot of people find themselves in, where you have to work a job that is not your first choice, where you have to do things for money that don't inspire you, that don't fill your life with joy, that you just do because you have to pay the bills and you need to have a roof over your head and you need to have clothes and food. Find time to do the things that give your life joy and meaning and purpose. You will need that to get through the tough times, to get through the depression, to get through the discouragement, to get through the frustration. You'll need that. So find that thing, whatever it is for you. Whatever it is for you. Find that thing that gives you joy, that gives you purpose, and hold on to it. Don't ever let it go. Make sure that you always have it, because you will definitely need it. Phil James. Steve, thanks for answering my question on number 221. I have another. Do you think that identity politics promotes unhelpful tribalism within the social progressive movement? Does this undermine the political firepower of the movement within democracies by creating groups such as Bernie or Bust? I don't think it was identity politics. I think it was crushing disappointment at being so committed to a cause and so committed to a symbol of that cause, a particular candidate, and working so hard and investing so much intellectual and emotional energy in Bernie Sanders and the idea of Bernie Sanders winning the election and becoming the president. And when that didn't happen, I think a lot of those folks felt angry and they also felt rejected. But I don't think that's identity politics. I think identity politics is something that can encourage tribalism. Absolutely. I think when a group of people stands up and they all assert their identity, whatever that identity may be in that particular group or that particular movement, and they say, we're tired of being treated as second-class citizens because of our color, because of our sexuality, because of our immigration status, because of our gender. That can be done in a way that is off-putting and alienating to people. And it's a big question and a big argument as to how much responsibility the folks within the marginalized identity bear for preventing that. Is it the responsibility of marginalized people to present their case in a way that is palatable to privileged people? Should they have to do that? Or should it be on the privileged folks? Should it be the privileged person's responsibility to be mature and to be compassionate and to be open-minded and to see the oppressed people standing up and asking for what is rightfully theirs and go, oh, thanks for letting me know, I'm on your side now, let's work to accomplish that goal? It's a very difficult question. I think in general identity politics is a necessary and a good thing. And I don't think it is responsible for the Bernie or Bust phenomenon. Malevolent Divinity. Is there any way that we as a country could just make Sanders our sort of de facto president? Where, sure, Trump gets to veto things, Trump gets to get briefings, Trump gets to do all the things that the president has the power to do, but outside of that, we treat him like the joke that he damn well is, and instead defer to more competent leadership over the next 4 years. where the official meetings with the actual president are treated as circus events and actual diplomacy is handled by someone competent? Could we as a country invest so much unofficial power into someone else, someone better, someone like Bernie Sanders, to the point where there's so much power behind his unofficial position that his sway trumps that of, well, Trump? It's an interesting idea, and I do think that people will need to start exercising our political power in a more unofficial capacity these next 4 years because, as I think I said in last week's You Had to Ask, we have given away so much power at the ballot box over the last several election cycles. So if Bernie Sanders is willing to do that and will be the voice of the people in the government in whatever official capacity he has, and at the same time we are investing that power in him through our support of him, and also using our own power as citizens and our ability to be civilly disobedient, to take political action, to be politically activist, and we're doing those things in the real world when we have to. I think it could work. I think we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to try something because it's 2 years until the next election. And when the next election happens, the most important thing is to show up and to vote out Republicans and to vote in progressive Democrats. That's the most important thing. But that's 2 years from now. In the meantime, we have a lot of water to tread. And if doing what you suggest and doing what I've been suggesting with the political activism and civil disobedience when necessary is what we need to do to tread that water and keep our heads up, then that's what we need to do. We need to do that. And then when the election comes around, we need to vote. And we need to vote the right way. And we need to vote in big numbers. Because not doing that is what got us into this mess in the first place. Funky Daniel UK. Steve, are there any elements of third wave modern feminism you don't agree with? Any ideas of concepts put forward by people in the modern feminist movement you don't like or you think are misguided? I don't mean things from second wave feminism like TERFs or SWERFs. I mean arguments that are going on in the modern intersectional feminism. I think that there is a separation between the public, between the average person and third wave feminism. I think there's a very strong academic presence for third wave feminism in universities and people writing very serious, very important papers and books about it, giving speeches about it. But and then there's also sort of an internet faction of it that is often maligned, that is often sort of denigrated as, oh, it's just internet feminism, it's just Tumblr feminism. But in between that is where a lot of people lie. And I don't know if third wave feminism has been as good at connecting with just everyday ordinary people and connecting the concerns and the issues that third wave feminists address with the concerns that afflict everyday people. And those connections are definitely there. Third wave feminists are talking about some incredibly relevant and important things that affect everyday people. But they're not doing as good of a job as second wave feminists did in the 60s and 70s of reaching out to those people and connecting with them and saying, what we're doing has to do with you. And if you support us and become a part of our movement, it will help you. It will make your life better. It will improve society in ways that will benefit you and will benefit people like you. So I think that's a problem I have. But it's not a problem with their ideology or their theories or their concepts. It's a problem with the failure to connect with people that they can help and that can help them. Dr. Babylon. Steve, I was just in a conversation with my father about why more millennials didn't vote in 2016 or voted for third parties. I voted Libertarian. I don't believe in casting negative ballots, and my father thinks that's short-sighted. My dad called leftists millennial crybabies for staying home just because they didn't get Bernie. I agree my generation is part of the problem, but I don't think excluding us or shaming us is a solution. What are your thoughts on this? I don't think excluding or shaming millennials is the answer either. I think encouraging millennials to continue to participate in the political process and to expand their participation in the political process is the key. Young voters tend to skew progressive and left when they participate in the political process and when they vote. So if we can get more young people to show up and vote, most of them will probably, or at least a greater percentage of them, will probably vote for liberal candidates, for progressive candidates, for for candidates that will be not like Donald Trump and Mike Pence. It's very easy, especially when you're young, to feel very cool and very above other people and very smart by saying things like, oh, fuck the system. Burn the whole system down. I'm not going to participate in your warped, crooked system. But the problem is the system is still there, whether you participate in it or not. And if you choose not to participate in it, and a bunch of people from your group choose not to participate in it, then your voice and the voice of other people like you will not be represented in that system. And you will not be able to use your political power, your vote, and your voice to direct the system, to set its priorities, to set its limitations. There are all kinds of things that the system needs to change, that need to be changed about the system. And the best way to change it is to get in there and to get some influence and to work to change it. So if you can convince millennials, if you can convince young voters that their vote counts, that they can make a difference, and that it is incredibly important that they get in there and try to make a difference, that will be good for everybody of all ages. But yeah, shaming them and trying to, sort of wag your finger at them is not going to do it. Joe McClory, if you had written the last year's election as a work of fiction and were told you have to follow through with the story by an editor, how would you make Mike Pence president? An assassin as the oath is taken? Refusal to take the oath, and a speech about how much Trump is ashamed of the nation for electing his worst possible president character? Him being arrested and impeached for ethics violations or treason right after finishing the oath? Or some other clever storyline? As this is the last you had to ask before the 20th, I could really use a bit of escapist fiction. How would I write out the Trump presidency? Well, I would need there to be a heroic character, and I think that in light of Trump's press conference this week, I would want the hero to be a journalist, and I would want to have a journalist character who uncovers something about Trump with solid evidence that can't be denied, that will finally demonstrate to everybody, even the most blind, full of shit Trump apologist, that the man is just completely unfit for the office and just cannot be allowed to be the president. And it will be the heroic journalist character revealing this and proving this to the world, and then Trump either having to resign out of disgrace or taking the oath and then being impeached very shortly thereafter to allow Pence to take over. That way you get the heroic character who is part of a class of people that Trump has relentlessly attacked and vilified and attempted to undermine. And you also have the villain Trump being felled by his own sins, by his own hubris and his own misdeeds. I like that. So it's sort of Trump defeats himself, but it is made possible by the actions of a heroic journalist, one of the people who Trump has relentlessly attacked. I think I would go something like that. That's how I think it would have to be done. And speaking of things that need to be done, it's the end of this part of the video, whatever it's called, and it's time now for the next part of the video, which is a little something I like to call
the lightning round.
Troubleshooter 125. Steve, have you ever run onto any performance or event on video, film, or audio which was so horrid you wish you could unsee or unhear it? Ooh, that's tough. I don't know if there's any that are that bad that I'm sorry that I watched them. But as far as like memorably bad performances, Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula comes to mind. God, what the fuck was he doing? Anything Bill Paxton has ever done? I don't know. But it's hard to think of something that's like so bad that I wish I hadn't seen it. I can't think of anything like that at the moment. Francois Lacombe. Hi, Steve. Lightning round question. If Trump, Pence, and their entire nominee cabinet were to drop dead of heart failure right after Trump is finished taking the presidential oath of office, would that make you believe in God? No. But if you could prove to me that God had something to do with it, I might be willing to reevaluate my opinion of him. I might think, maybe he's not so bad. Maybe he's changed. Hey, come on. I know he was a dick in the Bible, but maybe he's changed. Look at the good thing he just did. You know, I would be open to giving him a second chance. David Edwards, when the fuck are you going to start your voiceover animation voice career? I guess I should PM you. Expect a message, Dave. Carlisle the Cinephile. As a fan of wrestling, I think you'll appreciate this question. Who is your favorite wrestler that made the transition to acting in movies? My personal favorites are Dave Bautista as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy and Andre the Giant as Fezzik in The Princess Bride. I gotta go Roddy Piper. Although I have to say, Bautista has really impressed me. At least in Guardians he did. Because I know he'd done a little acting before that. He'd done like some direct-to-video stuff. And it was just like, oh, whatever. But he is so good as Drax. He is so good. So I would definitely put him on the list. But my favorite's Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper is my favorite wrestler turned actor. Lucas Hackett, One Angry Brony. Hey, Steve, I hope I'm not late again, but in your words, do you know the real true meaning of life? In my words, yes, I do know the real true meaning of life. Corey Donaldson, lightning round question. Since there's talk about a biopic of John Glenn, the first person to step on the surface of the moon, starring Ryan Gosling, which popular astronauts in history would you like to see a biopic on? And Corey, I think you meant to say Neil Armstrong there, because Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon, and Neil Armstrong is the biopic that Ryan Gosling is currently attached to. I think you probably just typed the wrong name there. No problem. And which astronauts would I like to see a biopic on? Valentina Tereshkova, who was the first woman in space. And I have a video about her that I shot a couple weeks ago. It's a 5 things video that's going to be published in the next couple of weeks that you'll get to see. She is awesome. She is a badass among all badasses. Orbited the Earth in 1963, was in space for 3 days, orbited the Earth 48 times. She's awesome. I would love to see a movie about Valentina Tereshkova. Dylan Jones, I know you are of the wrong opinion that the Lord of the Rings movies aren't good, but what do you think of the books? Also, if you think the Lord of the Rings movies aren't good, is it safe to assume you think the Hobbit movies are atrocious? I have not read the books. I read The Hobbit long ago. I think probably like for English class when I was a freshman or something. And don't really remember much about it. Didn't really leave an impression on me. Never read the Lord of the Rings books. And I have not seen the Hobbit movies. So I can't tell you if I thought they were good or not. I would guess I would not enjoy them. That's just a shot in the dark. Captain Andy, hey Steve, which of the following fills you with the most indifference? Someone making a video about you, announcing that they've destroyed you, or a small child pointing their finger at you and saying bang? Well, the only difference between the two is that the child might be endearing, depending on the child and depending on the context. So the first one, the someone making a video announcing they've destroyed me, that's got to be the most indifference, because how many times have they done that now? How many people with like 10, 15 times my audience have made videos saying, I've made a fool of him. His credibility has been completely destroyed. I've destroyed him. And here I sit. So yeah, that's the first one. The first one is definitely the one I'm most indifferent to. The kid pointing might actually turn out to be kind of cool. You never know. American Anarchist, do you agree that the people trying to pin the kidnapping of a white disabled man in Chicago are just a bunch of racist pieces of shit trying to push a racist agenda? And I assume you mean trying to pin that on Black Lives Matter. Yes, absolutely. I said it at the end of my Facepalm 5 video earlier this week, and I'm happy to repeat it again. People who are trying to tie that awful, brutal crime in Chicago to Black Lives Matter are racist pieces of shit. And at the very best, they are getting their information about Black Lives Matter from racist pieces of shit. Stop listening to racists give you their racism as evidence against some racial equality group. Yes, absolutely. People trying to pin that, people calling that the BLM kidnapping are racist pieces of shit who are pushing and perpetuating racism. Fuck them. Fuck them all. Radical Bacon, vaginas are self-cleaning, but are manginas self-cleaning? Unfortunately, no. I wish my mangina was self-cleaning, but I am constantly on that thing. It's like a full-time, believe me. Be so glad you do not have a mangina. It is a full-time job just keeping the thing clean. I wish I hadn't got it. I wish I had kept the penis. I wish I hadn't got it, honestly. Crowbro, Shawn Michaels is in a Christian propaganda movie. Is your childhood destroyed yet? No, not really, because Shawn was, I love Shawn Michaels. I'm a big fan of him as a wrestler, but he was never like one of my favorites. My childhood died as far as wrestling is concerned when I turned, like, I forget how old I was. I was probably in my late teens or early 20s, and I realized what a fucking piece of shit Hulk Hogan is in real life. That's what destroyed my wrestling childhood. So Shawn Michaels doing some Christian movies, whatever. Hey, that's it for the questions. It's time for the shout out. And the shout out this week goes to such an awesome, cool channel here on YouTube. It is the YouTube channel of Staceyann Chin. And Staceyann is a writer and an activist and just an all-around cool person. But she makes these videos on her channel called Living Room Protests that feature her and her young daughter, Zuri. And they talk about all kinds of stuff. They talk about, sort of parents and kids stuff. They talk about politics and sort of stuff happening in the culture. They're so much fun. They're really good. If you have kids and you're looking for ways to talk to your kids about political issues or important things like that, I can imagine if I were a parent that some of these videos would be a good starting point for how to talk to your kids. Maybe show them the video and ask them what they think about it. But yeah, Staceyann and Zuri just are they're so much fun to watch. And it's so encouraging and sort of inspiring to see people like this on YouTube, using YouTube for something like this. A mother, a parent, talking to her child about things and sharing it with the rest of us, providing a good example of how to sort of navigate the world as a parent with a young child. I think a lot of it is just really, really super, and I cannot recommend the channel highly enough. So if you have not heard of Staceyann Chin, and you have not watched one of her living room protest videos with Zuri, I would highly recommend that. Check out that channel. That's the shout out. And as I always say this time of the video, you should also be checking out the Lemme Listen podcast. These are a whole family of podcasts produced by my buddy Jason Harding, aka Jason with a D. And there's just a whole family of them. There's Lemme Finish, which was the original Lemme Listen podcast, which is hosted by Jason and Atticus. There is the improv comedy podcast, American Monsters and How to Destroy Them. There is Filmtastic Voyage, which is hosted by Mike and Alex. There is Cinetific, which is the movie science podcast, which is hosted by Professor Jason and Professor Aaron. And last but not least, there is Late Seating, the movie review podcast hosted by Jason and me, where we look at classic movies that have a certain reputation. And we give them a fresh review, we summarize the plot, we make fun of it for your own entertainment, and we decide whether the movie we're talking about deserves its reputation, whether it's for good or for bad. You can listen to our most recent episode, which went up last week, which is about Michael Bay's Armageddon. And you can get ready for our next episode, which will go up next week, which will be about the classic political thriller, The Manchurian Candidate. So if you haven't seen the original Manchurian Candidate, the Frank Sinatra, Angela Lansbury, directed by John Frankenheimer, that original Manchurian Candidate. If you haven't seen that for a while, check it out. Go watch it, do your homework, and then you can get all the jokes when you listen to our episode of Late Seating about it next week. So you can listen to the most recent Late Seating. You can listen to all of our past episodes of Late Seating and all of the episodes of all of the excellent Lemme Listen podcasts by going to LemmeListenPodcast.com. And I really wish you would. I don't think you'll regret it. That's it for me, everybody. I am out of here. I am done. I am through for another week. I want to remind you, as always, to please leave a comment on this video asking me your question for next time. You can ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of your questions as I possibly can in the next video. So if you have a question, leave it in a comment on this video. That's how it works. And for me to do this, you have to ask. So please ask. Ask me anything you want to know. That's it. I'm out. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm even done saying that that's it. I'm not saying that's it anymore in this video. That's it. It just went off the rails completely. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. you can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron of this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.